Have you ever noticed something strange about modern life? You can live in a city with millions of people around you, walk through crowded streets, ride packed trains, scroll through endless profiles online, and yet somehow feel completely alone. You can have hundreds of contacts in your phone, thousands of followers online, and still realize that when something truly important happens in your life, there are very few people you can actually call. How did this happen? How did humanity move from villages where everyone knew each other, where communities were tight and interdependent, to massive digital cities where people live side by side, but remain emotionally worlds apart? And what if this loneliness isn't just an unfortunate side effect of modern life? What if it is actually a design? What if modern cities, modern technology, and modern social media are not just making people more connected, but more isolated? Because isolated people are easier to influence, easier to divide, and much easier to manage. As the philosopher Hannah Arendt once wrote, the ideal subject of totalitarian rule is not the convinced believer, but the people for whom the distinction between fact and fiction, and the distinction between true and false, no longer exist. And one of the easiest ways to reach that point is to make sure people are alone. The architecture of isolation. Take a walk through any modern city and look carefully at the design around you. Towering apartment buildings filled with thousands of residents. Yet neighbors rarely know each other's names. Offices packed with employees. Yet conversations rarely go deeper than small talk. Coffee shops full of people staring silently at glowing screens instead of talking to the person sitting 3 feet away. This is not just culture, it is architecture. Cities used to be built around public spaces, town squares, community markets, shared courtyards, places where interaction happened naturally and relationships formed organically. But modern urban design has quietly shifted the opposite direction. People live stacked vertically in anonymous apartment towers. They commute alone in cars or headphones. They work in controlled environments where social interaction is limited and monitored. Then they go home, to a digital world where interaction happens through screens instead of real presence. And social media promises connection. But what it often delivers is curated loneliness. You scroll through photos of other people's lives, watching their celebrations, vacations, relationships, success. But you are not part of those moments. You are only observing them, which slowly trains the brain to believe something dangerous. Everyone else is living, and you are watching. Over time, this creates a silent psychological shift. People stop trusting strangers. They stop building deep friendships. They stop forming strong communities. And when people stop forming communities, they become individuals, floating alone inside massive systems. Individuals who rely almost entirely on institutions, corporations, and digital platforms for information, entertainment, and social validation. And when society reaches that stage, managing people becomes far easier, because communities create resistance, but isolation creates dependence. In the film Fight Club, the character played by Brad Pitt delivers a line that captures this perfectly. We're the middle children of history, with no purpose or place. The statement may sound dramatic, but it reflects a quiet truth about modern society. Many people today are surrounded by others, yet feel like they belong nowhere. reclaiming real human connection. The solution is not to escape society. It is to rebuild connection inside it. Real connection. Not algorithmic connection. Not digital validation. But actual human relationships built through shared time, shared struggle, and shared experience. Human beings evolved in tribes. Small groups where people depended on each other for survival. Those bonds created trust, resilience, and psychological stability. But modern life tries to replace those bonds with digital substitutes. Likes instead of eye contact. Followers instead of friends. Notifications instead of conversation. To reclaim your independence, you have to reverse that process. Start prioritizing physical communities again. Join environments where people meet regularly and interact without screens. Local groups, clubs, sports, volunteering, creative communities. Spaces where relationships are built through action instead of algorithms. Because the more real connections you build, the harder it becomes for systems to isolate you, and the more resistant you become to manipulation. The anti-isolation strategy. The first step is awareness. Start noticing how often technology replaces real interaction in your daily life. Notice how often you choose scrolling over conversation. Notice how often public spaces are filled with people who are physically present, but mentally somewhere else. The second step is intentional friction. Choose environments that require real presence. Invite someone for a walk instead of sending messages. Sit in places where conversation can happen naturally. Remove headphones occasionally and observe the people around you. The third step is building small communities. Not huge networks. Small groups of people who know each other well enough to trust each other. Because systems can influence individuals, but communities influence each other. And history has shown something powerful. Every strong society is built on strong local relationships, but every fragile society is filled with isolated individuals who rely on distant institutions instead of each other. So the next time you walk through a crowded city or scroll through endless profiles online, ask yourself one question. Are you connected, or are you simply surrounded? Because those two things are not the same.